Namaste and in Lak'ech, and welcome to this episode of One World in a New World. I'm your host, Zen Benefiel, and as always, please subscribe, like, comment, share. It benefits everybody. And also, if you visit planetarycitizens.net, which is our sponsor, and I am the founder, it's a nonprofit, so anything that you can offer is a tax-deductible donation. But you can also pick up a free copy of Planetary Citizens: Awakening the Heart of Humanity. It is a wonderful book. It's got great reviews on Amazon. I encourage you to get your free copy and maybe even go to Amazon and write a review if you would. So thank you very much in advance. Now, this week's guest is an old friend. I've known her for decades. It's Sunny Dawn Johnston, and we're both Phoenix Valley residents. She is a CEO and co-founder of School of Light. She's also, interestingly enough, a psychic medium, a spiritual mentor, and an author and speaker. Three of her books are Invoking the Angels, The Love Never Ends, and 365 Days of Angel Prayers. So stay tuned. We're going to dive deep, and I guarantee you we're going to have an apocalyptic chat today. We'll be right back.
Explore the thoughtless sphere. Embark on a life-changing journey of self-discovery. Embrace harmony with self, with others, with Earth. One world in a new world. Zen Benefiel skillfully ignites conversations, guiding guests to reveal personal journeys and perspectives. Listeners are inspired to seek knowledge and find wisdom in their own lives. Join this transformative journey as we navigate the depth of human experience.
Sunny, it is so great to have you here. This has been a long time coming. It's been, gosh, years since we've had a chance to chat, and I'm loving this opportunity. Thanks you, yeah, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation. I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk to you after, yes, decades. It's been, man, when you start saying decades, you're like, whoa, what's happening
I
here?
know, I don't feel that old, right? I still feel like a
Exactly.
teenager. How about you?
That's right. Exactly.
And
Absolutely.
and I bet you still act like one too.
I think so.
I know I do. I get in trouble in public. So, we talked a little bit, and you're kind of familiar with the challenges that folks are going through today and the nature of being able to tune into oneself. And in order to do that, we've got to talk about what's going on inside of us. We live half inside and half outside.
Mhm.
That's kind of an awareness that, yeah, we know it, but we don't really think about that.
Yeah.
And speaking about that is even more difficult because of how we see others being berated, institutionalized, deemed crazy, insane, all those kinds of different things. And yet, those who do, we find that they are full of insight and wisdom when we pause our judgment and criticism and just listen.
Sure. Mhm.
Curiosity. So my curiosity is currently, when you began this journey, there was getting to where you are, with the psychic mediumship and those kinds of things. That's a very special gift and talent, and it begins early.
Mhm.
What did you experience as a child that made you realize that, oh, there's something more going on here that maybe others aren't aware of that I need to pay attention to?
Well, I think that in my young years, I had a sense of it, but I didn't really have the words to explain it. I didn't really know why I felt different. I didn't really know that I didn't know that it was something even that was different than anything else until when I was 13 years old is actually when I became consciously aware. So I think all of us as kids, we just are taught to shut it down. We're taught to ignore it,
Agreed.
taught to deny it,
Well,
right? Like
we're wide open. This is, we
absolutely.
come in, there's no boundaries, there's no guidelines. We're just curious.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the word curiosity. It's such a perfect word because it is the word I use to explain my entire journey. Because that's what happened. So when I was 13, I went to bed one night. I woke up and at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I saw this colorful winged being above my bed. And her energy was very peaceful and calming and loving and gentle and all the things. And
Right.
I was just like, like it felt just like safety, and it felt like connection, and it felt like love. And I felt so good about it. I just rolled over and went back to sleep.
Sure.
My mind didn't
Better
even
than
kick in,
engage, right?
right?
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
next morning I woke up and my mind kicked in, and I'm like, oh my God, what was that? Why did that happen? All those things. And so I ran downstairs and I told my mom, and my mom said, well, Sunny, that was your guardian angel. And I said, I don't think I have one of those. And she says, well, of course you do. Everybody has a guardian angel. You have a guardian angel too. And I'm like, I don't think so. If I have a
Sure.
guardian angel, they're not doing a very good job. And she's like, why are they not doing a very good job? Because and my 13-year-old brain was like, listen, if I have a guardian angel and I'm having troubles and struggles and challenges and not having friends and things like that, then my guardian angel isn't doing a good job, because shouldn't they be like making you happy and keeping everything good, right? That was my 13-year-old mentality.
Sure.
But what really created the awareness for me, Zen, was that she said to me afterwards, she said, well, you do have a guardian angel. And I just want to let you know that last night at 11 o'clock at night, I came in and prayed over you. And I asked God and the angels to keep you safe, because I've been worrying about you and your, lack of self-esteem and some of the struggles that you're going through. And when she said that, I recognized two things. The first thing I knew, was that I had awakened to the manifestation of my mother's prayer. That was the first thing I knew.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing was that I knew that it created an awareness of curiosity in me. If maybe that is a guardian angel or something,
Right.
I want to experience, I want to see, I want to feel
Give
more.
me more.
Right, exactly. Like I want to know that, because that was that inner connection and that connectedness. I knew it was real. I knew it wasn't something I made up. I knew it wasn't a
Sure.
dream. So it sent me on a journey of curiosity that has gone on for 41 years. I'm still here today and I'm
And
still curious.
yeah, and me too. I had a similar thing when I was a kid. I was orphaned and adopted early, and when they brought my adopted sister home, I was 4.5, and I already had the unconditional love. There was never a question. I didn't really think all that much about, the biologicals and why they gave me up. That those questions weren't there. The question that remained was, because I'd been to Sunday school already,
Mm-hmm.
if I have a father and mother in heaven, can I talk to them?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And a few weeks later, I'm on a stairwell, hands looking out the front porch window at night, and I hear this big booming voice just penetrate my whole being, and it simply said, "Hey, you." And it was so loud, and yet it wasn't frightening at all. It was powerful. And I heard it. I knew I heard it. Instead of engaging it like you, right, I spun around and I said, Mom, Mom, do you hear that voice? What voice? That voice says, you can imagine 4.5-year-old. That voice. It said, hey, you. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, no, I didn't hear any voice. Must have been a peeping Tom. And then I realized, oh, something else is going on here. And so shortly thereafter, Dad worked nights. Mom would be in the kitchen. I would be in front of the window in the living room and project the voice. This was at night, right? Lights on, can't see out. So I would project that same voice out, and I would stand and I would wait, hoping it would come back.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like you were saying, kids got, well, neuroscientists say we got 70,000 thoughts a day.
Mm-hmm.
and kids are using all of those, right? So when I finally learned, I don't think I learned, when I finally happened to shut up internally,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
the voice returned.
Yeah. Get
And it's
quiet
been
enough.
there ever since.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to be quiet,
Yep.
right? You
Yep.
can't answer the questions with what you think you know. You got to
Mm-hmm.
ask the questions, shut up.
Yep. Yep.
So when you shut up, how did that affect the relationship that you began to have with your guardian angel? And how did that evolve? What kinds of things that you experienced that others might as well?
You know, I think that I had a really hard time shutting up, first off. I think when we first have experiences with our intuition, with that connection to spirit and whatever form that's showing up in, whether it's through angels or guides or God or our loved ones in spirit, or whether it's that higher self and that voice within.
Mhm. Comes through many forms.
Yeah, yeah, lots of different ways.
Yeah.
I think that initially I was almost like trying too hard. Like I wanted to understand it, right? Like my 13-year-old brain said, okay, let me go learn more. And so instead of getting quiet, what I did is I filled the space with learning. I went to the library and I went and asked, hey, are there books about how to talk to your angels? And they're like, no. And I'm
Right.
like, well, that's what I
Look,
want to do. I want to communicate
they
with
give you the
with
weird
my
look and like, huh?
guardian, right?
Yeah.
And I was raised in Salt Lake City, Utah. So let's just add that to the story,
Wow.
right? So yeah, so she just looked at me and she goes, the
Which,
occult section.
oddly enough, honestly, I was an elder in church for a while as well.
Hmm.
And the reason I went into it was, okay, they at least profess to be aware of all these gifts and talents and
Sure,
skills, but yet there was a rigidity in their level of acceptance of them from others who weren't sanctioned.
correct. And for sure for women.
Yeah, oh, yeah,
So men, yes, they have the gifts, they can hold the priesthood, all the things, right?
right.
So when I went, they told me to go to the occult section. I didn't even know what occult meant. But so I went to the occult section. And when I went to the occult section, there were books on astrology and numerology and runes. Those were the only 3 books there were in the
Mm.
library in Salt Lake City, Utah. So I checked them all out, and that's what I started with. And what happened is I very quickly realized none of these books have anything about angels in them. So and I
But
started
they have
then.
frameworks that the angels can work in,
They did, yes, for sure.
right?
But what I started to do is I went the other route. I thought, well, I didn't do anything to cause this to happen in the first place. So I probably don't need to do anything to have it continue to happen. Um, and so I would think, figure it out like, okay, what did I do that night? I try to
Right.
repeat it. So what I
Yeah.
did was, this is what I did. Uh, I guess this is my form of prayer at 13, because I really rejected the church because of all of the
Sure.
circumstances and situations.
Sure. Yeah.
So I
You
just said
rejected the church, yet there was that inner, for
connection.
lack of a better, devotion.
Yes, absolutely. And that awakening that was happening, but it was in almost like I felt like it was in defiance of, like I couldn't do
Mhm.
both, right? So I'm going to go this route.
Yeah,
And so
it's
what I
not a
did,
city in Ohio.
pardon?
It's not a city in Ohio.
Exactly, exactly. So what I did, Zen, is I actually just talked out loud and I just said, okay, I'm not sure who you are. I'm not sure if you're an angel or not. I don't really know where you came from or why you came, but I would like to have more experiences like that. I would like to feel you again. I would like to see you again. And I would like to learn more about like your world.
Hmm.
And that was my prayer. And I didn't really know that that's what I was doing then, but that's exactly what it was. And what happened was
It's words with intention, right?
absolutely, and coming from the heart, it was
Yeah.
very, very heartfelt. Um, and what happened was, not only did that guardian angel in the form start coming back, but so did a slew of other angels. And I kind of felt like I was in class. Like I was literally being
Sure.
trained by the
Yeah.
angels. And I'd say, okay, well, and I'd feel these feelings. And like when Michael would come in, I'd feel this strength and I'd feel this, like my whole body would get like this, like
Well, yeah, the
strong.
sensations, it's, I've learned we can't think our way through a system built on vibration. We have to sense
Exactly.
our way through.
Exactly. And so that's how it started for me, is I started embodying the feelings of the
Mhm.
energy of the different these different beings. And so that was exciting. And I would take notes, okay, Archangel Raphael, I can feel and see and sense the color green. Michael, I can feel and see and sense the color blue. So I just kind of kept these notes, and like I was in class with the angels. And I kept doing that, and that started opening me up to my inner world, right? Like
Mhm.
that's where I started getting quiet. But then what would happen is I'd have this cool experience, and then I'd be like, okay, nobody else is talking about this stuff, but maybe they're just not talking about it because people just don't talk. So I started talking,
Mhm.
and I started sharing it. And I shared it with a friend of mine, because at that point, this was about 6 months into it, her grandfather had just died.
Mm.
And so we were, at 13 back then, you still went out and played. That was
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you were
And
still
the girls were a lot more open with each other than
sure,
guys. Guys are
sure.
never talk about that,
Yeah,
right?
I would imagine. Absolutely. So we were out playing out in a park, and I saw her grandfather next to her. And I said, "Oh my goodness, your grandfather is here." And she's like, "Sunny, my grandfather just died, remember? Like 2 weeks ago." I'm like,
Hmm.
"Yeah, I know."
Yeah, no,
But
yeah,
like,
you just think he did.
right. But he's like right here, right next to you, like right now he's there. And she goes, "That's not possible." And I said, "Well, it is. Yeah, like I'm telling you, he's right there." And it freaked her out. And she went home. She told
And
her
that
mom.
usually happens to most people, right? When
Yep.
you see
We all
something
get
that they
afraid.
can't,
Yes.
it
We
doesn't
don't
make it any
understand it.
less real.
Yes. Yeah.
It
But she
just,
didn't understand it.
right. And
And
what we
and
don't understand, we fear.
exactly. And so that's where the fear trigger came
Right.
from, right? Well, she told her parents, and then her parents told all the other parents, and then all of a sudden the friends that I had no longer were friends.
Oh man, don't you just being ostracized like that? It's just wrong. And yet you got to go through it in order to temper your metal.
Yeah. Well, it at the time it was devastating. Um,
Mm, no
and
doubt.
it caused me to then stop it all. I don't want I just want to be normal. And that's what
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
all
I
the
just
time.
want to fit in.
Yeah, I just want to be like all the other kids. I just want to be normal. And then I would be in that energy for a little while. And then I would dip back in. I'd have an experience, or I'd have an insight, or I'd have a feeling. And then I'd feel, oh my God, this is so cool. And then I'd be like, nope, I just want to be normal. And I actually did this for 15 years.
Mm,
Back forth, back forth, back forth. And I mean, I had miraculous experiences, not like just intuitions and synchronicities. I'm talking like life-saving experiences. And I still then, after a little while, be like, I just want to be normal. I don't want people to think I'm weird or different or
yeah, well,
whatever.
guess what, Sonny?
Yep,
That is normal for you,
exactly.
right?
I absolutely. And that's what I came to understand, in that entire experience growing up. I didn't fit in lots of ways. This was just one of them.
Hmm.
Um, but it built up a strength in me, and helped me to step into an identity that in the future, when I was 28, 30 years old, I would need to have that thick skin, and I would need to be able to not care what people think, because even though nowadays we're having this conversation and they're
Right.
all over, right? And we have absolutely, this isn't a fringe topic any longer, not like it was anyway. Back then, it was hard, and
Oh,
because
I
you
had the pleasure of seeing the inside of an institution because I shared my story
yes.
after getting beat up at a frat house.
Yeah.
And my parents were all, I understand they were frightened for their adoptive son, right? They
Mhm.
didn't understand what was going on, and that fear causes a lot of things, even
Sure.
choices that aren't necessarily the best, and yet because they're made, there's still that process of going through. And had I not experienced that, I wouldn't have the empathy for people who find themselves in that situation.
Yes.
Um, beyond their own control, right?
Yes.
And especially kids,
Hmm.
when all they want is somebody to listen to them and help them figure things out,
Yeah.
not tell them or diagnose them and drug them
Right. Well,
because they
and to help
don't
them
fit
tap into
in.
their feelings, right? Like,
Yeah,
what are you feeling? Like, not just emotional feelings, but feeling in your body as well, because our body is
it's an
signaling to
instrument.
us, right?
The
Absolutely.
body's an instrument. We
The,
just don't know
the
how to
best
tune it,
oracle we have.
yet, right?
Yeah, the best oracle we have. So
Yeah,
I did that dabble back and forth. So I don't think I really was able to own it completely until I put myself out in a way that I couldn't hide any longer. And that happened when I was 28.
right.
That's when it started.
And I have an idea that's probably not too far from when we first met.
It probably isn't. Yeah, I've been in this field for about 25, 27 years, something like that, in professionally working, right? So I've been
Right.
studying it for 41 years, but for the last, I forget how old I am sometimes. Yes, because I just keep getting older, and it's this amazing thing, right? So I'm like, I gotta
Sure.
I gotta add a few more years onto that. So yeah,
Right, right.
26,
Oh,
20,
and it was just yesterday that it happened.
exactly. Exactly. You got
Time
it.
dilation, right?
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
So in that quagmire that you were in for a bit, what were some of the key things that you found within yourself that helped you to get through it, whether it was internal or a friend or mentor or even a book or the things that helped you at least stay partially centered?
I feel like I didn't have a mentor and I didn't have a friend and I didn't have anybody to talk to. I feel like I had this deep, deep sense of knowing
Hmm.
that there was a reason that it was happening and it wasn't just by chance, and that I needed to, I got very depressed, very disconnected in my life. I went through a lot of trauma. I had a baby as a teenager. So there was a lot of chaos, and I created a lot of struggle in my life.
Hmm.
Um, but there was always this part of me, even though I didn't feel good about myself and I had a lot of self-esteem and self-value and self-worth issues, there was this part of me that's like, I know there's a reason for this. I know there's a reason for this. I don't know what it is. I just got to live through it. Like, and
Right.
literally, like literally try to live through
Well,
it.
correct me if I'm wrong, and we don't really know because we're not talking to a bunch of other people. I have that same experience as well. There's that deep inner awareness that, yeah, even though others don't experience what you're experiencing, may not understand it, think you're weird or whacked because you're experiencing it, that doesn't change the experience. And that's the
Exactly.
only truth that we have.
Yep. That's absolutely true. And it wouldn't, um, it never went away.
Hmm.
It's
Well, it
always
never
there,
does.
right?
Well,
Because it doesn't.
you can
We
choose
go
to set it
away.
aside, right?
Yeah, we go away, but it didn't go away.
Right,
I would
right.
go
Yeah,
away.
exactly. It's always there.
I would distance myself, but it never went away, right? And so I think what happened for me is I really was just like, you got to live through it. You got to live through it. You just got to get through it. You just got to get, and I didn't know what I was getting through or where I was going.
Hmm.
And
But
then
you trusted. There's an element of trust
yeah,
that
I did.
becomes present that's beyond any. It's like love, right? The perfect in perfect love there is no fear, right?
Mhm.
That whole thing.
Yeah.
And so it's that sense of perfect love, and
Yeah.
you don't understand why or how, it just is.
Yep. And I knew it was bigger than me.
Yeah.
And so my job was just to figure out how to live through it. And
Find the flow.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And so that's what I did. And then when I was 28, I had two women that were very close to me. My son's paternal grandmother. So I had separated from his birth father, but
Hmm.
I was close to her. She passed away in July, and then my grandmother on my mom's side. passed away in December, and right after my grandmother died, and she died a very, very tragic death. Right after she died, she came to me and she said, "You need to be my voice. I've never had a voice. I never had a voice in this life, and I need you to be my voice." And my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and she walked out of her care facility and froze to death.
Ah.
And so it was a very tragic death, and it was also absolutely purposeful because
Mhm.
I was her voice, and I mean, we
Right.
changed
You
laws.
bring up something that I was having a conversation earlier today. We see these things at a human level,
Absolutely.
and we don't understand if we go to the observer level and beyond, right, that it's still all in perfect order and exactly how it's supposed to be. We're just attached to what we think
It
it
should be.
ought to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, you got it. And I knew like immediately I knew there's a bigger purpose. And I think that this is important for a lot of people to think about is, my grandmother was an alcoholic her entire adult life, and she was abused her entire adult life by my grandfather. It was a very abusive background. And
Mm.
so she developed Alzheimer's. Makes sense to me. Yeah, let's forget about all this shit,
Right,
let's
right.
do something different. But when she died the way that she did, um, there was and she came to me and said, "Be my voice." I knew that what she was doing was creating purpose with her life that she never felt like she had.
Hmm.
And that even though it was difficult to think about the way her physical body went, that her spirit was like freaking free. Like, I'm
Well, yeah,
free.
yeah. There's no veils, right?
Hmm. Yep.
We create them, or we
Yes.
create the belief
The
in
idea,
them.
yes, exactly. The idea. And so we went, I mean, we changed laws in Utah, we went to Senate hearings in Washington, D.C. Like, we did a lot of work, and I was able to be that voice. And so when those two women, they got up, they got together, they got
Yeah.
connected in the spirit world, and they're like, we got to get this.
They're up there just
That's
dancing
right.
away. It's like,
Yep, yep.
let's see what we can get her to
They're
do.
like, it's
Oh,
time. Let's get Sunny
right.
going. So it's
Yeah.
time for her to get her shit together and do what she's meant to do. And so I literally felt like between the two of them, I felt this, I'm going to say pressure, responsibility, and like, come on, girl. Quit trying to pretend you're a stay-at-home mom. That is not who you are. It's not what you do.
Yeah, you feel that kind of, not that there is a push or pull. However, it feels that way when you're being drawn into.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It felt very necessary. And
Hmm.
I also felt that I had such resistance that I knew I needed to step into that resistance. Right?
Sure.
Like, when we have resistance, there's a reason why it's there.
Oh, absolutely. That door to fear is, first of all, an illusion,
Yeah,
and it means that whatever you're feeling tense about, you need to lean into.
that's the next step. In my life, anything I have fear in, that's the next step, right?
Yeah,
So that's what I did, and they forced me into, I like to say, from the other side. They're like, "Okay, go girl," and I did, and that's when I started stepping out, doing readings and things like that, just to open that door. And then,
sure.
I mean,
Well, in a
then
sense, all you did was just acquiesce,
yes,
right? It was there for you all
yep,
along. You just
yep,
finally said, okay,
yeah, let go of the resistance,
yep,
surrender into it. Yeah. And then my entire life changed. I mean, the reality, my entire life changed. So
sure.
I created this really amazing, beautiful business. I was on food stamps and welfare at 18 years old. And I have a multi-million dollar business, and I've been able to help serve, tens of thousands of people, and make a difference and a ripple effect, and donate a lot of money and do a lot of good. And so I feel so, so grateful and so blessed for all of it, because even
Right.
those times back then that were so hard that I was like, I don't want to even live the next day.
Yeah.
um, they laid the foundation for something greater that I wouldn't have, just like you said, I wouldn't have the compassion for the
Hmm.
people that are walking that journey, and
Right.
and I feel so blessed because able to answer that call. It took me a long time. That phone rang for a long time.
Well, and that's the thing. As long as you finally pick it up,
Yeah,
right, it's going to continue to ring until you pay attention to it,
got it.
or you
Got it.
completely deny it and go the other direction, which is a choice you can
That's a
make.
choice too.
Right. Unfortunately, I know I'm speaking we because we both feel, I suspect, that that's one of the best things that you can do is pick up the phone,
Yeah.
right? Answer the call.
Answer that call.
And it's going to be full of trials and tribulations. That's how it's made, right? You cannot, when you're given the knowledge and responsibility, you have to act.
Yeah.
And if you don't, then at some point you'll get a cosmic two before upside the head.
Had enough of those. Yeah, I had kind of the idea that I had a very full life and a very challenging life. So when I was like 28, 29, and I started, I'm like, okay, I give in, I'll do this. I'm like, oh, it's gonna get so much easier. That was not what happened.
Right.
It wasn't that it got easier, it's that the lessons got deeper and they got stronger and they got more expansive within me and outside of me, right?
Now,
Because
did you find that in so doing, that deeper level of trust that you built opened up new doors to other things, other realms, other beings, even
yep,
deeper connections with those that you already had?
absolutely.
How did that, can you give me an example or give us an example of something that was highly impactful that is that offers evidence of how connected things are?
Um, well, I'll tell you that, when I first started doing this work, I was doing psychic readings, and helping people through those kinds of readings for about 4 years. And
Hmm.
4 years into it, and I kept having mediumship show up. So the deceased energies kept coming in, but I kept pushing them away because I did not want to deal with them. I'm really empathic, so I feel the emotion.
Yep.
And I would feel not the emotion of the person died because they're fine. I'd feel the
Sure.
emotion of the story and all the energy around it, right? So I'm
Right.
like, nope, I don't want to do that. Don't want to talk to the dead people.
Well,
Don't.
there's an entire thought form around that that is energy, and you're going to feel it.
Absolutely. And I really did not want to do that because it would make me sad and it would make me sick and all the things. So for
Sure.
years, I just like, nope, I'll do readings. I do readings. I don't do that stuff. And then I had this bright idea, and I think it was 2002, to do readings at the state fair. And the state fair in Arizona, you probably know, is like 21 days. It's a
Hmm.
long state fair.
Yeah.
It wasn't my brightest moment, but I thought it was. So they'd never had anybody do readings there before. So I had to jump through all the hoops, and I did. And and so I was about 10 days into doing readings at the state fair. And there was a man that was walking down the aisle where I was, and I saw him, and I just knew he was coming for me, right? When you just know, like, okay, here we go.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Here he comes. Okay. Get
I
ready.
was I was worn out. I was done, and I could feel his energy, and it was so dense. And I will say I was quite judgmental, because I could just see in his energy field, he just had a very hard road. I could see that he'd had addiction issues. Like, I knew all the stuff, and I'm like, I just don't want to get in that energy right now. So I
Yeah. It's like,
grabbed
come on,
my
guys. Really?
yeah, and I grabbed my book, and I kind of, like, was hiding behind the book, hoping he would just pass by. And as I'm sitting there, he just comes up and he grabs his chair and he flips it around. And he sits down. He's like, "All right, read me." And I'm like, ugh, okay, because I'm nice too. So I'm like, all right. So we sat down, we started talking. And as I'm reading him, there's a little boy that just is jumping up and down next to him in spirit, a little boy in
Mhm.
spirit. He's jumping around next to me, super excited that he's sitting down. And he's like, oh my God, I finally got him here. Like, he's so happy, right? And I'm like, sorry, buddy, I'm not talking. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing mediumship. No way. And I already could feel so much pain in him. I'm like, double down ignoring, right? And the little boy just keeps jumping down, like he's trying to get my attention. And come on, just listen, just listen, just nope, sorry. And I just kept doing the intuitive reading with the guy. And then finally, the little boy just says, well, fine, then just tell him it's not his fault. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So that, like, I felt that in my heart, right? And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. So I sat and I listened to this little boy, and he told me, and he gave me a vision of the exact thing that happened and how he lost his life. And I started crying immediately because it's horrible.
Sure.
And so I told the man, I said, listen, have this little boy. He tells me his name's Christopher. I know he's your son. He's about 4 years old. He's been gone a couple of years. And he tells me to tell you it's not your fault. And the man just melted in front of me. He just, like, the pain and the shame and the guilt, it
Hmm.
just started. And I witnessed that with my eyes, and like he was shape shifting. And the little boy gave me the whole experience. And I knew that this little boy's mother hired people to take his life because he reminded her of the dad. And the dad was in prison at the time. And so he felt like it was his fault because he wasn't there to protect him, and because he reminded her of him.
Right.
And we spent an hour together, and we both cried almost the whole time. And he got up a different person,
Oh,
literally.
no doubt. You made a huge, just the fact that he paid attention first of all and came to you.
Hmm.
Something drove him,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Maybe it was
And even
maybe it
though
was his son.
and even though my ego was like, ugh, I don't want to do that, my spirit knew, right?
Right.
And I believe I signed up for that whole damn fair, 21 days, for that one experience. That one experience, because what that did for me, because after he left, I couldn't stop crying. I actually had to leave. I
Sure.
was nauseous because the mother had the boy murdered. And
Yeah, that whole thought form,
yes, it was
right? It's just
horrible.
horrible to
Yes.
experience
Yes, it was
because
horrible.
all the malevolent energy in
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And I couldn't shake it.
Yeah,
I couldn't shake it. But what happened afterwards, I was walking to my car. I left early, which you weren't allowed to do. And I'm like, well, screw it. I can't even function. And I was walking to my car, and my guides said, and they talk strongly to me, especially when that little ego part of me comes out. And they said, now, what right do you have not to do the work that can help somebody heal like that? Well,
yeah.
you got
Oh,
a point.
yeah. And it's funny how when you hear those things, the level of piercing truth
Yes, I had to hear it that way.
that they have is just, and you can't deny it,
Yep.
right? Um, and there are those times, the curiosity, the willingness, oh, I think I know this. I had a perfect example, not to that depth, but I had an interview with Dr. Irvin Laszlo several years ago, and I thought, okay, I know a little bit about quantum physics, and I had said to him, in quantum physics, we're 99% space and 1% material. And he said, I would say we are 100% energy.
Mm,
And that just went to my core. It's like,
mhm,
oh yeah, dumb shit,
mhm.
right? So, those kinds of moments, it's like you build layer upon layer upon layer of understanding and knowledge and application, and yet there's still that ego not wanting to be we go.
Right. Mhm.
And it's that last step over the chasm, if you will, where
Sure.
we go actually does bring things in and it takes you to a whole new level because you recognize the level of service that you are able and must
Yeah.
offer.
Yeah. It was and is part of my purpose, right? And
Mm.
I was ignoring it and I was denying it. And that man, you know, and I've crossed paths with him before or since, and I've stayed connected with him. And little Christopher pops in every so often. Um, he was the teacher for me that day, to say, listen, there's people need this, and we know you want to be normal, and this is normal for you, and use this gift in
Sure.
ways that can serve people, because you can make a difference in somebody's life in 20 minutes or 30 minutes that he's been living with since that little boy died,
Hmm.
right? And okay, yeah, why would I not do that?
Exactly. Now you mentioned purpose, right? In the understanding, we're all cosmic consciousness condensed into form, just unaware. I learned that as a teen when I had prayed to know what truth was and was willing to die for it. Did, ended up in the light, beyond, told what my mission is here, and then came back and instantly recognized my choice. What I was willing to die for was cosmic consciousness.
Hmm.
I'd started with Christ consciousness, but it felt a little empty for some reason. I didn't understand until later that he embodied cosmic consciousness, so it wouldn't feel whole,
Sure.
right? And so understanding then that we are all cosmic consciousness condensed into form, then looking at, okay, even the betas say we're all divine threads connected to source, divine threads incarnate, connected to source, capable of God consciousness. Well, what's that mean? We're capable of understanding our perfected form, fit, and function in the world and living it. And that's at a very deep, I think, a combination of soul and genetic level where the two finally meet and you're activated to actually live that truth.
Sure. Hmm. and
Now,
and and
why do
and
you
I think,
think that made perfect sense, right?
mhm, yeah,
Why does it not?
it makes perfect sense to me.
I understand. Well, and yet there's this obsession in having to deal with the physical world, thinking things are linear,
Hmm.
right? When, life is not linear, and
Sure.
oftentimes it's not even local,
Right.
right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Now, in those experiences, and I'll broach another topic in um, beings that are beyond this world, and not just the angels, but other multidimensional beings.
Sure.
One of the first things that my wife and I, Luba, experienced, and I think it was the third time we got together, she had mentioned that she'd had an experience with an Arcturian
Hmm.
some years before. He just appeared in a vision. There was a gray wall, and his face kind of morphed out of the wall, and she was wondering what her purpose was.
Hmm.
And he simply said to her, mother and teacher.
Hmm.
And then he went back into the wall. And, that was bizarre. She was in the middle of her Kundalini yoga teaching
Hmm.
training, right? So it was very high. She had developed that discipline to take her
Sure.
into those levels where she was available to have those kinds of experiences. Well, she's one. I don't know who it was. And so well, would you like to? Would you like to know who it was? Would you like to meet him? I hadn't, right? It was just popped out of my head. And so, um, being a hypnotherapist, I'd got some training at Sweha and years prior. And I said, well, let's try this. So I took her down the stairs into had her open the door, go into the room, and she says, there's a bunch of dancing cherubs just
Hmm.
having a party, having so much fun. And I said, okay, well, your guy's in there. Would you ask him to step forward and introduce himself? And so she does, and this cherub steps forward and introduces himself as Nick. And so my next question was going to be, would you ask Nick to show you his true form?
Hmm.
And I got out, would you ask Nick to? And she says, he's Arcturian, right? And so and he showed up at our, uh, after we were married that evening and said that they were proud that we were together now. And there's some other inferences there that I won't get into because they're really out there. And yet, here are these multiple worlds that are congruent in their activity to be kind, loving, compassionate, and serving each other,
Mhm.
as opposed to what some would say, oh, there's bad aliens or there's malevolent, they just want to control us, or there's some draconians somewhere in a cage that are managing the planet. And, all that stuff I just find to be really, to me, nonsense. Because
Mhm.
it just doesn't make sense knowing what I know, having the direct experience that I do.
Sure. Yep.
And so what do we do about that, right? Here's another area where the stiff arm comes in because everybody likes the fear, guilt, and shame game,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And no, I'm not Catholic, but God love them. Um, so in those kinds of things and being able to move in these other worlds, what do you think is an avenue that others can take, or at least thoughts they might be able to entertain for themselves that would help open their hearts and minds and bodies to this greater experience that we're all invited to have?
Sure. Sure. Well, I think a big part of the opening is people having an experience. And it's challenging because we can't create it for them.
Hmm.
They have to have the experience on their own. Think that, one of the messages, so for you and for me and for people that do this kind of work, we have people that come to us that are interested, and then we share, our knowledge and our understanding and our gifts and things with those that come to us. Um,
Right.
but I think all of us have also tried to go to people like, hey, wait, I'm
Oh,
here. Let me
absolutely.
tell you.
Absolutely. Wait a minute. I can't be crazy. Somebody help me. Right.
Right. Right. And also like I can help you. Like, hello, would you just open your mind and think this way or do this thing? Right. So we have people that come to us. That's great. They're in at least a state of openness on some level.
Sure.
And so what I've found is that, especially in the first part of my career, I wanted to help everybody, even the people that didn't want help. And and I would try, and it didn't work. People
Right.
weren't interested. And then I found myself getting irritable, judgmental, critical, like, you don't understand, like, you're missing out. This could be something that could really help you. And then
Sure.
I found, having been in this career
That's where that
process,
push and pull of energy begins to happen. That
absolutely,
we're
and
totally
control starts
unaware that we're
happening.
doing it at the time.
Yes. And it starts to become a control thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, but now that I've done this for long enough, some of those people that I tried to get to do something 25 years ago, over the last 25 years have come into my world, but they've come to me. So, I don't think that we can force anything. I don't think we can make people open up. But what I do think we
No.
can do is we can do exactly what we're doing right now. We can educate, and
Right.
we can ripple our awareness and our vibration and our experiences from a very open, vulnerable, true space, so that people can, because I think that energy is out there that people will then be attracted to, that will tap in, and they'll hear what they need to hear when they're ready
Right.
and
Well, and
willing.
we're not wackos either. I mean, look at you. You've built a business. You've written at least 3 books. There's probably more. You know,
23.
how
Yeah,
many?
23 books.
Oh, pfft, congratulations.
Yeah.
I've got 40 some odd now, and,
Yep.
and I just can't stop.
Yeah. Good for
And
you.
a couple of master's degrees in business.
Mhm.
And so, people hear me, used to, they'd size me up because I had long hair and a beard and earrings, right?
Yeah.
And here's an old hippie, right?
Yeah.
Then they'd start hearing the words. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah. We
This
look
guy's a
pretty
little,
normal.
yeah.
We look like
Um,
pretty normal people now, right? And the
yeah.
reality of it is that, yeah, you don't have to be gypsies or any of those things, because here's the thing is, I think for sure, now that I've been in this field for 25 years, you've been in it for that many and more. We have credibility, right?
Yes.
But when I first started, I didn't have credibility. I didn't have a master's degree. I didn't have a college education. I didn't have any I was young,
Well, I'm
really
not sure
young.
the spirit really requires
That,
right?
exactly, they don't. But the human world did.
Yeah,
Human world
it
did. They're like,
helps.
well, what
It
are you
helps.
going to teach me? Right. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, sit down. Let's talk. Right. But
And the
nowadays,
degrees usually just, well, some, the finer ones when you get into the really deep detail and learning skills and talents and things like that in certain areas. However, some of them just show you what you already know is true.
exactly. It's very common. It's validating so you learn to trust the
Hmm.
truth of your experience.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that, at this point in my life, what I've really recognized, one of the reasons why I created the School of Light was to shine the light and to let the people come that are ready when they're ready. And I really think that the very first step is awareness. It's just having awareness that something is happening and that you are connected and that we are energy and that
Yeah.
things are,
Well,
so.
and that awareness comes from being still
Mhm.
and observing.
Mhm. Yeah, getting quiet. And that's
Yep.
why right now it's so difficult because there's no quiet space. Everybody's distracted. They got their phones, they got their computers, they got their iPads, they got the TV. There's no quietness. So you have to put yourself in those situations and
Sure.
those circumstances to really honor that space.
Absolutely. Which brings up another topic, the Shabda, or Hindus call it Sabda, the sound current.
Mhm.
That really high-pitched, effervescent, iridescent sensation that's in that silence.
Mhm. Yeah,
So you hear that too,
absolutely.
right?
Mhm.
I have the feeling that it's more than just, I mean, the Hindus say the Sabda is a collection of the vibrations on the planet.
Mhm.
I suspect it's more than that. I think it has to do more with the transmission of consciousness through hydrogen,
Mm.
which is the bonding agent of our DNA, also powers the sun, and it's the most prevalent gas in the universe.
Mhm.
And it also has that invisible tertiary piece that the rest of the elements have.
Mhm.
And I found that just really, when I first began thinking about that, it's like, okay, how does this transmission take place and where'd the Trinity really come from? And then I was taken on a trip across the universe and met these three suns. It says, we're not only your forefathers, we're also the forefathers of your solar system.
Mm.
And before I could start asking questions, my guide who took me there says, oh, that's it. You got all you need. You'll figure it out.
Mm. Mm. Interesting.
And so then you go through that, litany of breaking things down. Okay, if that's a macro, then the micro is proton, electron, and neutron. So then hydrogen is missing one. So what's that mean? And where's that fit? And that led me into the bonding agent DNA. And it's like, okay, and then getting into the brain where you got the corpus callosum, which is the transmission layer or the transceiver between hemispheres. And you got the hypothalamus at one end and the pineal at the other.
Mhm.
Well, here's a really cool system that we haven't figured out how, that it's actually working. We're trying to go in and analyze through the
Mhm.
data that we get from the scans and all of those kinds of things. We're not really looking at how the energy flows and the direction from which it comes and goes.
Sure. Mhm.
And, that may, I would imagine we just don't have the technology to look at that. And perhaps those kinds of questions aren't being asked, kind of like the Higgs boson, right? You remember the God participle, right? There was a big hoopla, and yet it was data that said, oh, no, there's no particle there, but there's evidence that there's a decay of one. So there must have been a particle.
Mhm.
So they declared, we found the God particle.
Mhm.
However, when I asked, who was it? Lawrence Krauss's TA at one of the science cafes here in Chandler. I said, is it possible that instead of that, the subatomic explosion caused a rip in the fabric between dimensions and what you saw as decay was self-repairing?
Mm.
And I got a deer in the headlights look.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but it just made sense.
Mhm. Well, we could put it into possibilities, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, something else may happen, but that's the curiosity,
Mm-hmm.
right? When something doesn't feel, because
Yep.
you got a gut check.
Yep.
We have that three brain system, the gut, the heart, and the head.
Yep.
We generally start here and shove it in the rest of the body and wonder why we're diseased,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So using that sensation, though, if something doesn't feel right, probably isn't. Well,
Right.
then get curious, ask some questions, maybe postulate some things, or,
Mhm.
think with what you do know, what might be possible, and
Right.
you know that you don't know. Here's the wisdom, the D-U-M-B part of it instead of D-O-M, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where you admit, okay, I don't know, show me,
Mm-hmm.
and then be patient. And every time, and I'm sure it's happened with you too,
Sure.
when you ask a question, it is bound to the answer, which will follow somehow, some way. You
Mhm.
just have to be ready and give it your attention.
Yeah. Well, and so in that case, you have to be present and you have to be
Yeah.
open and you have to be, tuned in. And I think that's the problem is that our society is not that.
Back to this is what brought up the frequency, right?
Yeah.
I hear it all the time. Doesn't matter if I'm speaking, sleeping, it's just there.
Sure.
And I believe that's part of when I went into the light and beyond and came back, that frequency connected because I had a direct experience of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I have an awareness of it. And Luba says she has it too in her quiet moments. And I wonder if there are so many others who have it too. And I know a bunch of us, got confused with tinnitus. And yet I don't believe it is. I think there's that frequency that's wanting to come through that we are discounting it, avoiding it, stuffing it, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to paying attention to it, being curious about it.
Sure. Sure. Yeah,
How,
I don't have that all of the time. I think I have it in, it doesn't have to be quiet space. It can be um, conscious space. It can be in conversations, and it
or after
changes.
concerts.
Yeah, it changes, right? The vibration shifts and the pressure shifts and the note even shifts, but it's a high
Yeah.
frequency.
Yeah, it'll go from one ear to the other
Yep.
sometimes, and
Yep.
you'll be in the middle of doing something, and all of a sudden it'll just ding, right? And what do you do with that? How can we assist others to actually pay attention to it and not feel like they're being distracted from what's going on in front of them?
Sure.
And it may have something very much to do with what's going on in front of them.
Exactly. Yep. And it's teaching people to stay open, I think, and really to get into presence. That's been a
Hmm.
very common theme in my work over the last 5 years or so is presence, not distracting ourselves, not pushing the things away or stuffing the things, but pulling ourselves into presence each and every moment, like presence instead of the distraction of all the stuff.
Right, right. Well, Bandino wrote about that a long time ago, The Precious Present,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, Wonderful book. In the data stream, right? Because the if everything's vibration, and now we know that all of that contains data,
Hmm. Sure.
compressed.
Hmm.
It's like I went to Brian O'Leary's lecture in Scottsdale one year, and Anna Mitchell Hedges was there with the skull.
Hmm.
You might even remember that. It was back in the 90s, I think, early 90s, late 80s. And Brian was doing a opening meditation, and everybody had their eyes closed, right? And I'm sitting in the back of the room, and all of a sudden I see this flash bulb go off about 3 or 4 feet above Brian's head. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And I sat on it for a little bit, waited till it was done, and then I poked two people on either side of me to whom I did not know. And I
Hmm.
said, did you guys see that? And they're like, no. And I was like, oh. So I already understood at that point that that was a burst of data.
Hmm.
Now, how that was going to reveal itself to me over time, probably, because I mean, that kind of data drop,
Right.
talk about a God drop, right?
Right.
Um, so being aware that these kinds of things do take time, sometimes a lifetime,
They can.
for that distribution of
Yep.
information to
Uh-huh.
finally
For
get
sure.
through to us to where, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yep.
And that usually comes through the lineage of direct experiences that build upon that so that we can finally, oh, I get it
The
now.
connection. Yeah, absolutely. Hmm.
What do you find is one of the best things that a person could do to remain available to that, even when they may not be too comfortable with it?
I would say that, I prefer to not use any tools outside of myself.
Mm,
Um, because I know I always have me, right?
right.
So
And you can manipulate those tools. You
absolutely you
can
can.
get the answers that you want because your mind is that powerful.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think that is value for people as they're learning and in opening themselves up to use oracle cards or things like that. But I tend to like to just use my own oracle, which is my body. And I go to breath. I think breath is the thing that I always have till I don't need it anymore. And so
Well,
pulling
that is the
myself.
inspiration, right?
Yes. And just pulling myself into that presence. And so I think for others that are really just wanting to get into the connection of kind of all that is and in the form that it will show up for you, it's really just pulling ourselves into heart center, using my breath and this now moment. Those tools for me, and I've taught a lot of that throughout the years. Um, are the fastest way to get present and just be open, because
Hmm.
otherwise our ego's involved, we're making judgments around things. But if I can use the tools that were given to me that are meant to be used, um, then I feel like that can create a great opening for people to then recognize the experience and then ask questions, get information about whatever their lived experience is. Because so often people have things happen, they just don't know what it is. So they pass it off as, oh, that was weird. Well, that was strange. I
Right.
don't know if this weird thing happened. And then they don't
And second
ever,
guess.
yeah,
You know,
they don't ever go any
it's
further
that
with it,
first
right?
impression. It's subtle.
Yeah,
You may not notice it unless it's attempted to be gotten through to you on multiple occasions and you finally get a cosmic 2 before upside the
right.
head, right?
Yes.
Those things are the subtle impressions, the tingles in your body, the movements. We do have that tree of life and it can be activated. There are energy centers in the body. They're all connected. There are so many systems within our body that can deliver information to us that we can process and utilize
Hmm.
when we pay attention.
Yeah,
But we live from the shoulders up. We're too distracted with the outer world. And so
right,
we never really understand what the body is truly capable of.
right.
Because we're a whole being, right?
When
This
we
God
recognize,
consciousness, it is our entire being. It's not just our brain
sure.
or our heart
Yeah.
or our gut.
No, it's all. I mean, the body is the greatest oracle we have. It's the vehicle that our soul chose to walk this journey, this one journey with. And
Right.
so I think the more that we are tapped in and tuned in and recognizing that those receptors, they're always there and they're always taking in information,
Mhm.
then we have a much greater opportunity to see and hear and feel and know the connectedness of
Mhm.
us to all. And in that, there is an energy of trust and
And love.
that,
Because really all we want is to love and be loved.
yep, for sure.
And that's where it takes us to.
Hmm.
Because there's no criticism, judgment, um, self-deprecation,
Hmm.
right? That 70,000 thoughts, probably three quarters, maybe even five eighths, or
Yep.
three quarters, seven eighths are self-deprecating. Well, how
Sure.
do you manage your mind to do that? You've got to pay
Yeah.
attention to it first. Now, speaking of paying attention and the greater aspects that we're experiencing with when COVID happened, it rung a bell for me. It's like, okay, and in my experience as a teen, I was told I was here to help facilitate harmony among people and planet. I was wondering, okay, when am I going to get the chance? And, as much preparation as 45 years, I went
Mhm.
through stuff. And then COVID hit and the bell rung and I could feel it my entire being. And I even said to Luba when it happened, when we went on lockdown here, I said, this will give the obsession on self-hygiene and sequestration will give people a chance to self-examine.
Mhm.
Then what? Right? Some did, some didn't. And then, groups began appearing virtually of people who seemingly had, and they were seeking each other. How do you, if you will corroborate that, first of all, validate that, yes, that's what you saw as well. Where do you think this might be going? And in this rapid fire movement of how AI has truncated the time frames to do things, which gives us more free time to explore, first of all. How do you see that, or do you see it helping to assist in this evolutionary leap that we're about ready to take going into the Aquarian age?
Uh, I think that the pandemic did give us an opportunity to really kind of do a check-in. Where's our lives? Where's our focus? What are our priorities? Um, I think some people did well in actually taking that time and recognizing the value of it and the bigger purpose of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people did not. I'm not certain that we passed the test. Let's just put it that way.
Well, it
Uh,
doesn't take, like was it Margaret Mead said, a few people can change the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel that with that opportunity, we are all still learning and we still have that opportunity to check in with ourselves.
Mhm.
How are we showing up? How are we living our purpose? Are we living our values? What are the priorities? Because if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. So what are the priorities, right?
Right.
And I think that when we think about like our evolution, one of the things that brings me a lot of peace and gratitude is that the conversations that we have now are different than they were before, right?
You
The
think that's just because we're older?
well, maybe, except for I've been talking about a lot of the same things for 30, 40 years. So
You're right. I know. I totally agree. We've been
yeah,
talking about this stuff for as long as we've known each other.
absolutely. But the conversations that are happening outside of even this field, right? Like meditation, nervous system reset, intuition,
Right.
holistic.
Recursive function. This is a
Yes.
great one, right? So, it came out of the computer world.
Mhm.
And are you familiar with the term?
No.
So what recursive function means is it's talking about a system that queries itself for problem solving. What
Yes.
do we do?
Hmm.
Right? And this is talking about AI because this is
Right.
how it's built,
Hmm.
right? It's constantly, and it's not artificial intelligence, it's an aggregated human
Right.
intelligence. That's where it
Absolutely.
comes from.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not artificial, it's
Hmm.
us. This is
Yeah.
just, we're
It's
getting the
all of
feedback
us.
loop,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So we got to be careful of questions we ask
Absolutely.
and how
And
we
don't ask a question you don't want the answer to.
exactly, right? And it's
So
so
yeah.
much fun to play with, I think.
Hmm. Well, and to help us recognize areas that maybe we could expand our thinking, um, and areas where maybe we're short-sighted, and really I think there's opportunity there. And I
Mhm.
do think that with the changes and with the ripple effect of the way that we have expanded and grown, and that we have such much greater emotional intelligence and emotional awareness, and that we're talking about it, that people are waking up. I do think people are questioning the old systems, the old ways of doing things, the
Right.
the, the value of showing up, of humanity, of authenticity, of vulnerability. I think people are really seeking more meaning in their
Mhm.
lives.
And there's
And
a huge difference, like you were saying. It's broadened, right?
yes.
In the mid 80s, I was working for Allied Signal as a production control coordinator and sailed to the top of the department list as far as on-time shipments and deliveries. And they came to me, about 6 months later. I was the youngest person in a 35-person department. And he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm just treating people how I'd like to be treated."
Hmm.
And eventually I got interpersonal skills classes instituted. It was actually, it finally happened a year and a half after I was gone, but I got the initial consultant and got the ball rolling and was
Hmm.
ostracized because of it.
Sure.
And same thing happened with, being in the hospital. 35 years later, I was asked to speak at an IANS conference.
Hmm. Yep.
So International Association for Near-Death Studies, for
Yep.
those that aren't
Yep.
familiar. So here's I'm talking, the people want to hear me now
Hmm.
instead of wanting to diagnose and drug me. So
Exactly.
having that shift is like, oh my God, there is potential.
Yes. And
Uh,
and that's evolution. We have evolved. We are
Absolutely.
evolving. And I've seen that over the years, of teaching as well. Back in the day, we couldn't go and just talk about this.
Mm.
There were a few people that had the nerve and the confidence to be able to get out there, but for the most part, it was considered evil or the devil, or
Right.
mental health or something to that
You
effect.
know, I come back on some people because the whole Satan thing, right? Um, after my experience, I had the compelling urge to go down to university library and look into their, A through L, M through Z size dictionaries, huge, right? And to look up the word Satan to see where it actually came from.
Hmm.
And the very first reference was the Greek thetan, Thetan. You know what it means?
Mm-mm.
Thinker.
Huh. That's good.
Right. So we're it, right? We are Thetans. And then, of course, Scientology uses it for their, whatever, what do they call that? Analysis, or there's some other term that they use. But that's their highest level of um, assessment or whatever it is. And
Hmm.
so there's all of these indications that here's the apocalypse, right?
Right.
We're unveiling hidden knowledge or
Yeah.
knowledge that's been suppressed by the patriarchy for millennia. I mean,
Hmm.
who can imagine that women's actually made from a man's rib, right? That's just subjugation from the get-go.
Yeah.
Why do we still allow that?
Hmm.
We're not. I mean, there's this
There's a big
upswing
movement.
of
Hmm.
empowering women and
Yep.
entrepreneurial women and things like that, and this whole gender role shifting
Hmm.
that's taking place.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's a tough one to navigate because we've got these embedded programmed
Yeah.
notions
All
of how things
programs.
are supposed to be.
Hmm. Well, that's it. It was programmed, and that's what we think about. What is programming, right? It's programming us to believe a certain way, even just programs on TV, on the internet, on social media, on the news. It's all programming us in particular ways,
Yeah, and
intentionally.
so maybe we need to call this a deprogram.
That's right. That's right. Yes. Yes.
That may be more insightful than I realized
It
when the
might.
words came out of my mouth.
Yep.
Right? It's funny how those things happen.
Hmm.
Huh? It's amazing. And so great to have a conversation with you. This is, it's been years coming, and I'm so glad we did.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
It's wonderful. if there were something immediate that you see is present in the world in others that needs some nudging or nurturing, what might you offer in that respect?
Um, I think that we need to nudge ourselves more than we nudge others. And I think it is I liked what you said. I'm just trying to treat people the way I want to be treated. I think that we could make it a lot simpler than it is.
Hmm.
Like we complicate a lot with that thinker. I really like that thinker. So, keep it simple, like prioritize your day and bring in gratitude and enjoy your life and find happiness and move your body and listen to your intuition and create that space for silence so that you can really actually listen to what's going on and maybe think less and listen more and surround yourself with people that are in a high frequency to lift you up instead of bring you down, and pay attention to the programming. Watch what you consume. We consume with our ears, we consume with our eyes, we consume with our mouth, we consume literally with our skin. Like, watch what you consume. And
Hmm.
just remember, we're not alone. That we always have support. We always have our spirit team, our human team, whoever that happens to be. And start getting intentional about that energy of love that you want to ripple out into the world. What does that look like to you? And be it, instead of blaming and pointing fingers and they're not this and they don't that, let's just take responsibility for our lives.
We're gonna hit be the change,
Be the
right?
change. It's one of my favorite statements.
Just be. The
Yeah.
change will happen.
Change happens when you be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sonny, guys, it's just, it's hard to let you go. And yet we've gone quite a bit past our normal time. What's normal?
Yeah, what is normal?
Yeah.
It didn't
Now,
work for me.
no, exactly. Well, I really appreciate it. And you, the work that you've done, the people you serve, how you serve them, and the conversation that we've just had was just special.
you.
Really
Thank you.
was.
And thank you for having me. And thank you for the work that you do in the world. And thanks for all of you that are watching. And yeah, let's go be.
Mm. And namaste and in la catch. And thank you for sticking with us for this episode. I'm Zen Benefiel, your host, and for myself and Sunny Dawn Johnston, we thank you, and I will see you next time. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share, and stop by planetarycitizens.net and pick up your free book too. I'll see you next time.